Hello everybody and welcome to part 1 of Sleeping Beauty. As you can see, we are zoomed in on a detail, a very significant detail near and dear to my heart. This is the Momento Mori. Now you may have heard that word before, and if not, that's totally okay. We are going to talk about it. So we all know the story of Sleeping Beauty, right? And especially the Disney version. You know, she pricks her finger and she goes into a sleeping death. Well, that is exactly what Memento Mori is. Now, it's Latin and it translates to remember that you have to die. Now, what does that mean? You have to die. It sounds very ominous and overwhelming, right? I have to die? Are you kidding me? Well, it's a reminder that the end is for us all, right? And it's become this ancient, artistic, symbolic trope that we see throughout art history, used in visual art, architecture, philosophy, even performance art, such as like dancing or acting, right? Even if you think about Hamlet, when he's holding the skull and he claims to be or not to be, that is the question, right? That is his memento mori, to be or not to be. Now, usually in art, in painting, because that's what we're doing here, we're painting a memento mori, it's more often than not a skull, right? I mean, how head on, hammer on the nail is that? Death, a skull, boom, bam, it's a dead guy, right? Well, a lot of the times especially in Renaissance painting, right? That famous Italian Renaissance or Baroque paintings, or even so much as far back as in like coins, right? They have also used, other artists have used other motifs, other symbolism for the memento mori that's not as popular, such as the hourglass, or wilting flowers, dying flowers, signifying the impermanence of human life, the fragility and the quickness of it all. Sometimes it's little flies, buzzing around the painting, or even a coffin, which is a bit more out there, right? And so much so is that here in my Memento Mori, I'm using the full-on skeleton. Memento Mori is personified. They are in the foreground, an active participant, an active character, where whether or not they're a villain or, a devil, not so much so, because death is just another journey, right? It's just another milestone per se in the human existence. It's expected, right? Like, you're born, you live, you die. I know that sounds very bleak, right? But it is something that you can count on. And I just want to talk about how Memento Mori really has been utilized throughout the centuries. In philosophy, the thought was utilized in Christianity, and they had a strong emphasis on divine judgment, hell, heaven, the salvation of the soul, brought death to the forefront of the consciousness. I mean, they were burning people at the stake for all sorts of things, like witchcraft, right? And the Memento Mori acquires a moralizing purpose, which is kind of interesting, and definitely a foil to the Nunc Est bibedum, which is now is the time to drink. It's like a theme of classical antiquity, right? So when Memento Mori has been used in the ancient times, right, during the times of Plato, where the death of Socrates is recounted and introduces the idea that the proper practice of philosophy is about nothing else but dying and being dead. Christianity really brought this whole new perspective to it, as well as in Judaism, where several passages in the Old Testament urge a remembrance of death. Now, I was brought up Jewish, and it's true. Death is mentioned in almost every prayer, almost every page of, our prayer books, right? It's the mourner's Kaddish, even. It serves as a memento mori, because even though there is no prayer for the dead, the mourner's Kaddish has kind of been trumped that. It's been given that hat, that responsibility, and you find it on like every other page of the book. And that alone in itself is a memento mori. And, for example, in Psalm 90, Moses prays that God would teach his people to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. Number our days so that we get a heart of wisdom. Another interesting, way to look at death. Is death wise? Is death something to be looked forward to? Is it a time for remembrance? Yes, I think so. I think death is something that reminds us to live, if anything. And the Memento Mori has so many obligations, so many different roles throughout history, throughout art, throughout culture, that the scope is always widening. It's always widening and teaching us and telling us new things, different perspectives. In Europe, in the medieval era, all the way to the Victorian era, the Memento Mori was present, ever present, in songs, in art. There is even a ritual expression in the rites of Ash Wednesday, when ashes are placed upon worshippers' heads, and the words, "Remember, man, that you are dust, and unto dust you shall return." Memento Mori has been an important part of ascetic disciplines as a means of perfecting the character and cultivating detachment and other virtues, and by turning the attention towards the immortality of the soul in the afterlife. Now, that's a very Christian view. That's a very religious, spiritual view, where, it's been in their architecture, in these famous churches and these famous religious structures like the Duomo. There's the crypts that people visit, and the catacombs that have these haunting stories, even the ones here in New York, right? What is this obsession with death that humans have? It's fascinating to me, and I think it's always been fascinating to me. Growing up, I experienced a lot of death in my family. It was funeral after funeral after funeral. And it was a constant reminder that nobody lives forever. So I think that Memento Mori and I have this personal friendship. Death is a friend. Death is not something to be feared. Death is everlasting. Death is always something that you can count on. Right? We even have memento moris in art, in paintings, in literature, music. It's kind of a beautiful thing, this obsession that humans have with the unknown. Is there an afterlife? Is there a place that we go? Do we get reincarnated? All of these ideas, all of this mysticism and mystery sprouting from this one huge cataclysmic event that we all experience or will experience one day, whether we are onlookers and observers or participants. Memento Mori is probably one of the most beautiful symbols in art, to me at least. And I think that by including it in modern times, in our modern work, that we're keeping this tradition of mysticism and, questioning going. We're keeping it going. I mean, just look at some famous art like The Young Man with Skull by Franz Hals, or even La Calavera Catrina from The Day of the Dead. We see sugar skulls everywhere, and death is celebrated in Latin culture, right? It's not the end, there's this whole other life, we give offerings to ancestors, we bring them back for a day, right, with flowers and offerings and food. That's the Day of the Dead. And La Calavera Catrina is in itself a memento mori. In contemporary culture, I'm going to butcher his name, Roman Krznaric, Krznaric, he suggests that memento mori is an important topic to bring back into our thoughts and belief system today. He's quoted to say, philosophers have come up with lots of what I call death tasters, thought experiments for seizing the day. And I think that's interesting, seizing the day, right? And that just brings me back to this idea that death is not this thing to be feared. The memento mori serves, remember, that you will die, right? That's how we started. That's what it literally translates to in Latin. Death is something that we will all experience. It's inevitable. It makes room for more, and to include something like that, to have it lurking, to have it constantly over your shoulder, I wouldn't look at it as having a weight over your shoulder, but more as a friend. And in this piece, in this painting, in this Sleeping Beauty, even though death looks sinister and scary, I mean, look at this face. I mean, he's like almost grinning, right? It's up to us what our relationship with death is. Is he grinning because he's been waiting for you this whole time and you're coming home? Is he grinning because, at long last your suffering will be over? I can't tell you. We'll get into the rest of what this painting actually means and is, but I just thought it would be interesting and important to talk about this beautiful tradition of memento mori in art. And I just want to thank you for listening to me ramble and watching me paint. I hope that you learned something and that you found something interesting, or, have a point that, got you to go research something out there. Definitely check out more of the classic Italian Renaissance paintings. They're my absolute favorite, but so is the Dutch Renaissance, any Renaissance. Even check out some contemporary art now. Mexican art is huge and well known for their memento moris, their sugar skulls, their la catrinas. They have huge, rich culture. But anyways, thank you. Thank you for watching and listening to me ramble about Memento Moris. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and Patreon if you want to help an artist out. My website is selkiesecrets.com, where you can find all things fae and magic and weird. It was great. I hope to see you for part 2. Bye!